What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you all had a great Tuesday. I'm here at you with another update on the tropics. What's going on? Tropical Storm Bill did form overnight last night and is now heading off way out in the Atlantic Ocean. It's only thing it's gonna really manage to do is bother a bunch of fish and a bunch of water out there. So no impact to land. But the main thing we're obviously going to talk about is the energy in the Gulf that's going to begin to start to move north here in the next 24 to 48 hours, probably pushing more towards the 48-hour mark. And we're going to look at the updated models and really see what looks like is going to happen. Has anything become consistent? Has anything strengthened? Does it look like it's going to weaken? Is it going to become Claudette, which is the next name, the sea name, Claudette? Is it going to become Tropical Storm Claudette? Could it become Hurricane Claudette? What are going to be the main impacts? We're going to go over all that. We're going to talk about who could potentially see what, as it's really starting to look like now for pretty much 100% confidence that the lower 48, the Gulf states, are going to, and the Southeast, and potentially the Mid-Atlantic or the Northeast, are going to be impacted by this tropical system. So before we get going, if you guys have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I upload every day, so even when the weather's boring, I still manage to try to upload a video and just talk about what's going on, what could be potentially going on in the future. We're about to get deeper into hurricane season. If now's active time is a sign of things to come, we're going to have an active hurricane season potentially. So definitely hit the subscribe button. Y'all's support is amazing. And like the video, hit the notification bell if you want to know when I upload. And also, hadn't done this in a couple videos. If there's anything that I can pray about, anything that anybody else can pray about, drop in the comments. If it's unspoken, just say that. It gives me an opportunity to pray for you, and it gives others opportunity to do it too through the comments. So let's go on and talk about what we got going on. So we have the latest update on National Hurricane Center. Nothing's really changed. Bill is actually a 60 mile per hour storm heading out to the ocean. I reckon it's probably going to weaken big time overnight as it gets in cooler waters. And they have actually dropped the chance of the 5-day outlook on this to 0% chance of developing, which is a little unexpected. I thought it was going to hang around for a couple more days, and who knows, it might get going again. But the conditions have really sheared this thing apart. But then we have this. Is what the main thing we're talking about here. It has an 80% chance of developing in the next 5 days, a 30% chance of developing in the next 2 days. But there's a good chance that this is going to develop, the good chance this is going to develop into a tropical storm. And regardless of obviously any kind of development, the Southeast and the Gulf states are going to be impacted. So this is what it looks like. It's actually sheer. Mixture of dry air and mainly just shear, and the pattern in place is really bogging this thing down. It's actually drifted a little further south back over Central America, but there is a circulation going on here. Actually, I didn't have this pulled up, but if you look at the wind readings around this area, it's clear that the air is moving, circulating around this, even though it's not a clear spin. As far as the tracks, this is GFS, the GFS ensemble tracks. All of it has it meandering. In the next 48 hours, it's going to finally make some headway north, but eventually it's going to pick up a little bit of speed. But all of them have it heading into either Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, and then curving as it gets influenced. But what looks like to be a trough of some sort. So strengthening. It actually went down a little bit, but let me make sure this is clear. Even if this doesn't become a tropical storm, it is going to bring a ton of rain to the Gulf states. I mean, a lot, and some gusty winds. And if the Euro is correct, which I'll show you, which is actually not quite as bullish as maybe yesterday's 12Z run, but let me tell you, it kind of retained that same look as yesterday's aggressive European look. So we're going through in time. This is going to get bogged down still, but it's finally going to be able to head north Thursday into Friday. We're into Friday, and Louisiana, in the beginning of your weekend's already starting to see influx of moisture because of this tropical system, which could potentially be Claudette. What's going to happen here is this is going to potentially strengthen as it moves on shore, and it's going to what looks to be Euro is kind of weird. It almost looks like it merges. It obviously does. It strengthens as it heads inland. And it actually, like I said, strengthens, but it looks like it merges with some energy with a trough that's digging down to the southeast. And as we get a more broader look here, here it comes. You can watch our system move up here, but look, as I get through in time, it begins to curve and move northeast. and it has a 995 millibar low pressure here. That is like a full-blown tropical storm almost getting into Tennessee, and it doesn't really weaken much. If this was to occur, I expect areas like central Georgia into the Carolinas to see a severe weather threat from this, as almost like the tail of the storm whips through. But it's a little far out. I know it seems like we've been talking about this for almost 2 weeks now, but it's a little far out to know those kind of specifics. But if this was to come true, I'd expect some kind of severe weather threat for the Carolinas from this, because you're on the quadrant of the storm that promotes severe weather with a pretty strong storm pretty far inland. This thing moves all the way into the mid-Atlantic, affecting Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, all the way to New York City, according to the European. It almost looks like it merges with a trough and almost becomes like a nor'easter or something. But you can tell there's a trough moving through this, directionally pulling this thing northeast and trying to get it out. But it's really going to ride this section right here until it's really pulled further out into the ocean. So it's going to take this little avenue ahead of the trough and a ridge out here, and it's going to fit through this until something really pushes it violently one way. So as far as rainfall, this is what we're looking at through 10 days out. And you can obviously see the path of whatever tropical system forms. That is 7, 8, 9, almost 10 inches of rain into Louisiana and then Mississippi. But you can tell the axis of the rain, how it abruptly shifts east according to the Euro. The GFS is a little different. The axis of the rain's a little bit, I think it's a little bit more south. It is a little bit more south, so it brings more rain into central and southern areas of Georgia and Alabama and South Carolina. But we'll figure out what this thing is going to do. There's a little bit closer look. That's a lot of rain for areas that's already seen a lot of rain. The good news is a lot of areas that's going to get affected by this tropical system is going to have a chance to dry out over the next, probably almost the next week, over all the way in through to the weekend. Obviously, Louisiana will begin to see effects of this as early as Friday, but we really have a chance to dry out for at least a few days for everybody. So it's not like it's going to be heavy rain all week and then all of a sudden a tropical system moves in. No, it's not going to be like that. But I want to show you this. The potential wind gusts are pretty impressive with the European run, and moves it through, and this is potential wind gusts. And look how the wind gusts get stronger. They don't weaken, they get stronger as you get into Atlanta. For instance, if this happens in Atlanta, you're going to have scattered power outages. But it's like it merges with the energy from the trough. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm not quite sure why this thing strengthens like it does over land. And I haven't gotten actually a clear answer today from some people who know a little bit more about me. That know a little bit more than I do about this scenario. I have seen systems do things like this before. Hurricane Matthew did that. I think it was Matthew. Hurricane Michael did that. It hit the Panhandle of Florida and actually did more damage in areas in North Carolina, Virginia than it did Georgia and South Carolina, just due to the fact that there was an enhanced part of the storm that really promoted a big-time wind threat. But we have to watch this aspect. We have to respect the Euro and understand what it shows, but we need to understand why too. And I'll have a little bit more information on this here in the future. But if this happens, this will be a big-time wind threat, and with almost like a strengthening storm over land, according to the Euro. Very odd setup, but I'm going to show you this is the GFS. I do want to mention this. This is the energy right now that we're talking about, but there's going to be energy over here that merges with this energy. It's going to come over here and you'll see it, and that's actually what kind of gives this a boost and starts getting it going north. You know, I'm a believer that the stronger the storm, the more it can hold its own against stronger currents pulling a system one way. So if you have a weaker storm, it's influenced more by high pressure and troughs. If you have a stronger storm, then it can press up against a ridge of high pressure a little bit better and a little bit further. So the GFS, it's kind of like the Euro, it brings it in, but it doesn't intensify it over land like the crazy Euro does. But it does bring a lot of rain to everybody in the U.S. I want to mention shear. I think shear is going to have a chance to relax temporarily right here as we get into tomorrow. Shear gets to relax around the broad level of rotation, but then it increases again north and west of the storm, and I think this is really just a big it's a big factor in why this storm can't really develop as shear. You'll hear me talking about shear a lot through the next several months. Hurricanes don't like shear. It's basically winds that rip storms apart. So hurricanes don't like dry air, and they don't like wind shear, and they don't like cold water either. Those are the three things. Now, when you have little wind shear, and when you have warm water, and when you have moist air, you don't have a lot of dry air. Like for instance, way out in the Atlantic, a lot of times Saharan dust comes off the Sahara Desert in the North Africa, and then gets wrapped up in maybe a potential tropical storm or hurricane way out in the Atlantic, and it chokes it out and dries it out, basically, in a nutshell. So this is what we got going on pretty much. I've showed this many times. This is the low pressure coming up. You have a ridge of high pressure here, ridge of high pressure here, and you have an trough digging here. But you have an avenue as the trough moves away, and you have a little ridge that tries to build on top of it, but then it breaks, and the system is able to move on through. So, I'll tell you what, the update tonight really wasn't anything crazy. We were still watching it. The chances of it becoming a named storm is still very high, and it is a legitimate threat to land, and not like a full-fledged hurricane, but heavy winds, heavy rain, gusty winds, still a big time threat. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed night.